Hello and welcome to the Sensibly Speaking podcast. This is Chris Shelton, the critical thinker at large, coming at you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and with video here on YouTube. Welcome to my show. This week, we're going to get right into it. I have a special guest, SciBabe. Okay, this is Yvette D'Entremont. D'Entremont. I'm butchering name.
Well,
I'm horrible. I suck.
I never blame, as we were talking about before we started recording, I never blame someone for butchering my name. It's not like it starts with a lowercase and then has an apostrophe in it.
It's bad. Yeah. It's bad. But she is awesome. She was actually recently here in Denver speaking on how to detect bullshit, basically, in media and pseudoscience, that kind of nonsense. She is a scientist, actually. She is a chemist. And she's also a writer, public speaker, and science communicator. And she has gone public for the last few years. She has been taking on SciBabe and David Avocado Wolfe and Gwyneth Paltrow and other nonsense in the same way, actually, that I have been taking on destructive cult and pseudoscience nonsense on that side of the fence. She has a blog called SciBabe.com, which I have to comment on just because it is so awesome. She calls out the bullshit in a really down and dirty way. And let me just give you some examples of what I'm talking about here. These are some articles she has written. David Avocado Wolfe is the biggest asshole in the multiverse. Chiropractors are bullshit. The unbearable wrongness of Gwyneth Paltrow. Are all calories the same? And vaccinate your damn kids. Okay, so welcome to my podcast, Yvette.
Thank you for having me. And for the record, I only wrote one of those titles, and I didn't know they were going to keep it. It was the David Avocado Wolfe is the biggest asshole in the multiverse, and it's pretty normal that writers don't write their own headlines, and every once in a while you'll just have a working title and something that your editors are like, it grew on me. Yeah, so I was so shocked when I saw that article go up, and I'm like, they kept this? Oh, all right, that's
all
whatever.
Right, here we go.
It was so much fun watching him have a meltdown on Twitter after that.
Oh, I'll bet. Well, I'll tell you, after you actually read, and don't be fooled by the article titles, folks, because while it might sound like ad hominem and it sounds kind of nasty or whatever, some personal attack, it's not. These articles are fact-checked, well put together, and they are actually really good examples of critical thinking when it comes to taking apart pseudoscience. So I wanted to say that too.
I appreciate that clarification, because I know they're goofy. They have a lot of, dick jokes in them. Yes, I specialize in jokes of the penis. But I think that we have to meet people where they are. Like, I don't when I've worked as a scientist, I don't come home at the end of the day and go, where can I get my hands on some scientific journals? I want to read something that makes me laugh. So why wouldn't everyone else just trying to learn about science in their free time and be a little bit more educated about the world around them? So why not make people laugh, and then maybe they'll stick around to read some more science? So started writing about science with a side of giggles, and it kept sticking. But I try to make these articles not just accurate, but especially when I write over at the outline and itself, I work with an editorial team there, with a fact checker. And I've had some of my articles looked over by our company's lawyers to make sure that if we do get sued, which is a possibility, especially when we're writing about a person, if we do get sued, then basically they'll end up paying our legal fees. And that's pretty much the goal. If somebody's mad when they see one of my articles, that we'll get out of it without a fiscal hit from it. So it's, and it's hard to write these, because these are people that are making money off of their bullshit. Allegedly, everything I say is alleged, of course. There's, these are people making money off of desperate and vulnerable people in a lot of cases, just like religion. But that's, that's a commonality with all of them. And they don't want you exposing, the method to their madness, the science behind the bullshit. And when you do that in a way that connects with a lot of people, specifically the people that they're selling to, they can get pretty mad.
Well, I wanted to actually ask you about that because I've been dealing with Scientology as
I hear they're lovely to people who talk about them.
Oh yeah, they love their critics.
Very nice people.
Oh yeah, real super nice people.
They're good people on both sides. Sorry.
Yeah, well, Scientologists in general are actually pretty nice people, but you get to the head of the church and you're talking about total scumbags. And L. Ron Hubbard, David Miscavige, these types. And you find in the cult world, people very similar to, Gwyneth Paltrow or David Avocado Wolfe, people who seem to have stage presence. They're very stage managed when they're in public. They always have your best interests at heart. They're only doing what they do because they want to help people. And yet you get behind the scenes and you find out it's a pretty ugly scene. And in some cases, with David Miscavige, it's really ugly. We're physical abuse, that sort of thing. Yeah, so now I don't want to draw unwarranted comparisons. This world that you're in is not my world exactly.
Yeah, I've never heard of physical abuse from any of the people that like I haven't heard about David Avocado Wolfe being like, Kale, I'm gonna beat you with this kale leaf and that will get the cancer out. Like that's not a thing that I haven't heard about it yet, but who the fuck knows? I've heard of these are things that I've read people doing online, and I'm not attributing this to any one person in the Wooniverse. But I've heard people doing turpentine enemas to try to treat autism, and also bleach. Now, this is a common thing that there are certain people that are actually and one of them is an MD that's promoting bleach enemas, and they're also called magic mineral solution or chlorine dioxide, and that's a bleach, and they do this to help cure autism. And that one of the saddest things with this is the parents will say, they'll say, oh yeah, I saw my child, they think that their child has parasites, and that's what's this just makes me, I'm in pain thinking about this. They'll think that their child is a parasite, and they'll say, oh yeah, I saw my child excrete X number of ropeworms, and the worst is they'll post pictures of this. I'm like, great, your autistic child is being tortured with bleach, and then you're fishing through the toilet after they go through there to show your friends online that they pooped out what they think is a ropeworm. It's a bit of their intestinal lining that's been stripped off because of the fucking bleach that you gave them as an enema. And also, they're giving their children enemas for a non-medical necessity. That's
exactly.
And I get it. Like, these are parents that feel desperate and they're vulnerable, and it's disgusting that this autism, this unproven autism cure cottage industry has popped up. And it's some of these treatments that are and these are people that are afraid of chemicals, and they're using bleach and turpentine.
Right. And they think vaccines caused it in the first place. It's very, very difficult to talk rational medicine and actual medicine with people who are so prone to fall for this kind of nonsense, because you can't, once they start grabbing onto a cult figure like a David Avocado Wolfe or a Gwyneth Paltrow, and that becomes their authority figure, then suddenly the real authorities in the field aren't the authorities. It's kind of mirrored. It's kind of like, backwards day. It's like everything is turned around, and these people who have no credentials whatsoever become, or very questionable credentials, we could say that, become, the authorities. And I was looking at, Gwyneth Paltrow's site today.
Oh my God. Are you okay? Do you need a warm blanket or a puppy or a hug?
I'm telling you, man. Okay.
Your Google Analytics are going to be screwed up for months. Mine are never going to advertise anything that I actually look for anymore.
Well, here's the thing that I'd like to get your comment on this. Because here's what I'm seeing is I'm thinking that, we are, I was watching your podcast you did about a year ago with Joe Rogan. Great talk you guys had. And
I never watched it because I'm always scared to see how much of an ass I've made of myself. It was 3 hours in a room with somebody who I didn't realize it was one of the top watched podcasts in the country. I found that out afterwards, which was probably good for my sanity, but I got so much hate mail after that. So I was afraid to watch it.
Yeah, you guys, the comments too. I was looking through some of the comments. There were a lot of mainly on the chiropractic thing. And I'm pretty sure that if we start talking about chiropractic chiropractors here, which is not necessarily territory we need to revisit because you covered it pretty well there, but I'm pretty sure I'd get hate on that too. But I wanted to talk about this first, which is in that podcast, Joe mentioned how there is more awareness now of science, of pseudoscience, the difference between these things, that there is more education happening. And I agree with that. Yeah. But the internet being the, narcissistic outrage machine that it is. And
that's beautiful. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
It's all, I carry on.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And also the pseudoscience machine that it is. Yeah. We see now, this is what I was curious about. I think we're seeing these David Avocado Wolfes, Gwyneth Paltrow, trying harder to use language that will give them credibility. And let me give you an example. On her site, on the Goop website today, quote, "We've built our brand by turning to the best doctors and experts in the field for advice and solutions now. We've partnered with these practitioners to deliver health-defining vitamin and supplement regimens that address the acute needs of modern women."
Now, I know Gwyneth Paltrow isn't watching this, but for the viewers at home, I want to make sure that my opinion on this is clear.
Yeah.
So my hands are gonna get cramped after doing that for a while, but they get away with doing things like that because people don't know that saying the best doctors, that's something that Trump would say, but that people don't know that saying something like that isn't regulated. And it's kind of sad that they're also, again, these types of things are more geared towards women, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. But you can say a lot of things that there's no regulation on. You can just kind of say it, and you float it into the ether. It's just put it like Moses into a basket and hope he frees the Israelites. You see what happens. But these things are more commonly geared towards women for a handful of reasons. And this is going to go into some territory that I know that whenever, this is kind of sad. Lately, when I've talked about the disparities in medicine, I almost always get an immediate comment back. Don't try to turn this into a Me Too moment. And I'm like, guys, I'm talking about medical statistics. This has been so weird on the reactions to this. But they've found in medicine that women are often treated less for issues causing pain. They're given less pain medicine for the same issues. And there are times when people will go, their issues are taken less seriously, basically, in the medical system as a whole. And the problem with that, and the other thing, this happens to men and women, we don't have our shit entirely figured out in medicine. So you put all those things together, and one of the things that is kind of a big old bummer is that one of the things that can cause us a lot of pain and a handful of random issues is our uterus. Welcome to being a girl. And two issues that are, predominantly can cause a lot of pain, some hormonal issues, weight gain, and those are things that cause you to be very desperate, especially the weight gain part, and will cause you to go to one of these people. That's one of the big things, is trying to lose weight. And that's why people go to these, bullshit nutrition experts. But when you go back, sorry, I know I went on a little ramble there, but when people have issues with that, and two of the biggest health issues related to your uterus can be polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis. And the average time from when you go to your doctor saying, my uterus is trying to kill me, and diagnosis, it can range from 3 to 10 years. Most people don't go in and get that diagnosed appointment 1. So women can be struggling in pain, and they go to Goop and they go, well, I have some vitamins that are going to make you feel like you're in high school again, and I have a jade egg for you.
Right.
Exactly. And they hear that it's expensive and rich women like it, so it has to work. And the placebo effect can be a very strong thing. So it's not that these things work, it's that sometimes the system sucks. And I don't mean that modern medicine sucks. I mean that there are a lot of social factors that go into this, and we don't have it all figured out yet. And it's not that alternative medicine is great or that it works at all. It's that people are desperate, and this offers a life raft. So there are, like I said, lots of factors, and there's a reason why they point this more towards women. So it's a lot of shitty things rolled into one.
It's true. You're absolutely right about all those things. I have certainly anecdotal experience myself with with that, with seeing with my wife and with other people, other women that I've known. You know,
I've got a good one too. Sorry to interrupt. It's what I'm good at. But it's what I'm good at. So stick to what you're good at. And I'm great at interrupting. Just ask my husband. But no, it's like I injured my hip a bunch of years ago running, and I was training for an ultra marathon. Like, you injure a hip while you're training. You expect that. I could feel it on the particular 7-mile training run that I was on. Like, I'm like, something happened there. And it took me until the 4th orthopedic surgeon to get this diagnosed. Ortho number 3 even saw the torn labrum on the first on the MRI with contrast, and at one point he was like, well, I'm not sure about doing surgery for it though, because you didn't get a lot of relief out of the cortisone injection. And I'm like, that would be a reason to do surgery, because I didn't get relief out of the anyways. But he actually said at one point, I don't know, maybe you hurt your back, maybe you hurt something in your lady parts. I'm like, you went to medical school and you just called my uterus lady parts? Lady parts? Do you think I shook an ovary loose while I was running an ultra marathon? So I'm just saying, like, I understand why women get frustrated with this, because somebody who at one point won an award for being like the best surgeon or orthopedic surgeon in the state he was in, New Hampshire, I'm just saying, maybe there aren't a lot of surgeons in that state if he was that stupid. Like, he was a surgeon and he said lady parts. He was scared to say the name of the organ in front of a patient. My God, I have it. I know what it's called, doc. But like, I can see why women turn to alternative medicine, even if it's bullshit. It's just, So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have a couple ideas about that as to why people do that. But I was curious first about whether, just to kind of return to that language aspect of it first, I wanted to just kind of get your take on this. Have you noticed, or let me ask you this, actually, let's make this a more broadly open question. What counter strategies have you seen the woo peddlers take to counter when they get debunked?
Oh, that's a really good one. Now, here's like, some of them change, and it depends on the person. David Avocado Wolfe hasn't changed at all, or at least I have not, let me rephrase that, I have not seen any signs of change, but I might have just missed it. SciBabe had to change a lot because one of the big things with her, and this is why she became a really big target for a lot of, not just me, like I wasn't the only one writing about her. I just happened to, nail that one. Like, right place, right time. She was at critical mass, and everyone was getting annoyed with, that type of guru. And I just, right place, right time. But she basically had to go away for a while, and like, she still makes money. People still click on her website, but like, the reason why she became such a big thing was because she was in mainstream media. She was like asked for comment for things for the New York Times. I think she wrote 2 articles for the New York Times. She was on CNN. Whenever there was a question about an ingredient in a food, people pretended she was an expert. Can you imagine? But she had to change that all to being like a food like now she did like a crowdfunded food and supplement company, but she can't like go out and make her little, like she doesn't, her big model used to be that she would go after another food company and say they're using this ingredient or they're selling this product that's really bad, for your health, and she would petition them. And like after, she'd gotten however many hundreds of thousands or millions of people to sign the petition, like she would do this big, fancy, like I've seen a couple of pictures of her showing up to one place, like with her, with the stacks of pages of her hundreds of thousands of signatures. I'm like, that we can send things digitally now, right? But but that doesn't
it's for show. Yeah, I mean,
exactly. This is just me being a snarky asshole. I know that it's for show, but she shows up to the place with the stacks of these people are mad. It's like, no, they clicked a button online. But she showed up with all of her petitions, and they'd change an ingredient and put her on, like, basically it's like, okay, shut the fuck. They're looking at her going, shut up. We'll pay you to be on our board advising us. Go away. But like, no one's changing ingredients for her anymore. It's like, at least I haven't seen it. I have not seen a petition from her in a long damn time. Like, she tried one, I think, after the article that took her, that, shall we say, gave her a bad day. Like, I hate using the phrase takedown because, like, I don't know what's going to happen after these articles go out into the universe. Like, yeah, they're going to have a bad day. A couple other people are going to write articles about my article, and a couple people are going to ask them for comments. In the case of Food Babe, yeah, it really did change her career, which is crazy because, you know, her whole business model had to change, and people were keeping a closer eye on her. People looked at her critically. And it's been interesting to have people look critically at a lot of the people I've written about. But yeah, everything about her business model had to change after that. So that was a pretty big victory. But like, it's been crazy to watch that Gwyneth Paltrow hasn't changed her business model. She's doubled down on everything because I feel frustrated for Dr. Jen Gunter because she's doing an amazing job of just attacking all of the bullshit that's coming out of or that's, as I like to say, it's falling out of Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina, because it's just, that's a gateway to Narnia up there. Jade eggs, steam, like there's a lizard that's like, it's a fire breathing dragon. Maybe that's what all the jade eggs are for. It's to appease the dragon. But like, things are just flying out of Gwyneth Paltrow's pussy to be debunked, and like Jen is doing an amazing job of telling people, here's the science behind it. She's wrong. Please don't shove this into your pussy. And every time she debunks her, there's more traffic to her website, and it's not giving Gwyneth Paltrow any incentive to change, which is kind of sad.
Well, I think maybe this is just a suggestion. Actually, it just occurred to me. I hadn't really thought about this much, but it occurs to me that perhaps one of the ways that this might be attacked is the fact that people actually not only could get hurt from these things or could have long-term physical damage from some of these quote unquote remedies that these people are pushing. But I wonder if you could find actual stories of people where that's happened, because the way that Scientology has been exposed is through actual personal stories of tragedy and abuse. Because when people can humanize the facts, you can talk about the facts all day long. I can debunk Dianetics till the cows come home. I could do 10 hours videos on what pseudoscientific nonsense it is. But if I show you the actual human cost of Scientology,
I mean, like, I already knew that that Scientology was bullshit. Like, that wasn't even a question.
Right.
Like, we had some fun discussions when I was in Denver. I'm like, I can't wait to be in the same place as you again, just to hang out and hear. I'm like, I want to hear more. Like, I love crazy cult stuff because it's just so amazing. I'm like, really, this happens? But like, at the same time, there are reasons why people, I don't want to say fall for it, because I don't want to. I have a very tiny, very loud dog. That you might be hearing. He's very cute too. Hold on.
Oh.
Let me just bring my little puppy up here, because it might stop the barking if he's being snuggled.
All right.
But here's my teensy dog. Anyways, buddy, you're gonna be all right. Yes, you are. Which it's loud when you can hear it through noise canceling headphones. But moving. Oh, hi, doggy. But yeah, it's where was I on the Scientology? Okay. But yeah, it's like, that Scientology is bad before you watch the Leah Remini special. And then you hear that like people are actually being like beaten and electrocuted, and like there's a horrifying story behind all of that. But when it comes to like the food stuff and that kind of woo that I debunk, like one of the reasons I think that the Food Babe article was so effective was that like I could point out, here are things that hurts me, because with one of her things, like she was telling people, to lie about their food allergies, and like I have celiac.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like that was an actual thing that she'd put in a post, was lie about your allergies, as long as it will make sure that they get out that GMO canola from your, or whatever it is that, that's the bad thing. I forget the exact thing. It's somewhere in the archives, but she was telling people specifically to lie and say you have an allergy when you go to a restaurant. And look, at the time, like I live in San Francisco now, which is totally less wooey than Los Angeles. No, it's not. But like I lived in the last 5 years, I've lived in two very, very wooey places, Los Angeles and San Francisco. I loved LA. I still, I want to move back there eventually. San Francisco's fun. But these are wooey places. And when I go to a restaurant and tell someone, it's like, do you have a gluten-free menu? It's almost always, there's kind of an eye roll. And I have to explain, I'm like, no, I have celiac, not I live in LA and I'm an asshole disorder. It's the real disorder. And the waiters go, oh, okay, she's not trying to make my life miserable. She's not going to then say, I need butter out, I'm allergic to parsley. It's like, no, I have a real thing. And, because of the food babes of the world, and like the Gwyneth Paltrows and all the people that are like, oh, gluten's bad for you. It's like, no, it's bad for people with celiac. And there are, like, as I said in the talk that I gave in Denver, there is, debate back and forth now about if non-celiac gluten sensitivity is a thing. Like for a while it was like, oh, it's killing 20% of us. And then it was like, maybe it's not a real thing at all. And now there's some evidence that it might be real for like about 2 to 5% of the people, and they're still working on a test. And as I like to remind people, we didn't even know celiac disease was a thing until about the 70s. So, we're still working on that. So I don't blame people if they're like, look, my stomach hurts. I just don't want wheat in a thing. Don't say you have celiac disease. Just, grab something off the gluten-free menu and don't lie about your allergies. But like, that was the way we could show Food Babe was doing actual harm. She was hurting people with real food allergies. And it was, it wasn't obviously not the same thing. I want to be very clear about this. I am not comparing that to what happened to you, what's happened to people in Scientology, what's happening to people in cults.
Yeah.
But if we can show that there's that is a really excellent angle on that. Now I want to go and ask if anyone's gotten a bacterial vaginosis from a jade egg.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you, because this stuff that they push, I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, obviously, or the entire community, but I think that my experience has been that the thing that urges me to do what I do and to speak out about this stuff is that it is harmful to people. It's not just for the sake, science for the sake of science, or, I'm right, you're wrong because you're making more money than I am, or some jealousy thing, or some other weird nonsense. It's that this stuff actually, one, doesn't work, and two, can be very harmful. I mean, you're talking about bleach enemas with the kids.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. And I mean, here's the thing, like, I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you, like, it's like, if I know that if I drop a little bit of bleach onto my hand, it's going to burn. So I'm pretty sure I shouldn't put it into a place that humans should not enter into unless they go very well prepared with a lot of lube and some love. I'm just saying that's a place that you enter into carefully. But I'm amazed that that people that are, that are anti-chemical, that are all about, nature, are falling for some of the like, I'm just saying, I don't think a jade egg fell out of a jade tree like that.
Right.
Fell out of Gwyneth Paltrow's pussy. Just saying.
Yeah, it's pretty nonsensical, and I think most people see that, but the people who don't, it just is. You're just like, wow, how, and I know how. Because I fell all the way. I mean, I got no claim to, smarts. I find you to be plenty smart, Chris. So don't worry. But I mean, you were raised around it too. So I mean, that makes it easier. But like as I said in my talk, I fell for bad science too. And for me, it started with a really bad headache, like that just kind of never went away. I don't know how many of your viewers have ever heard of my plight, but I got the worst headache of my life one day about 8 years ago. Never went away. And I mean, while I was working with my doctors, I was working hunting around on the internet too, because when you get one of these types of headaches, they just don't go away. And medicine takes its good old time. Sometimes you have to wait for 6 weeks for a drug to build up in your system. Sometimes doctors are like, well, can you wait another month? We'll give you this other drug to take the edge off at night, but we have to make sure we have to rule this one out. Oh, you have to get through the first 3 weeks of horrible side effects before that doesn't, like, you're going through the ringer with these medications at first. And I understand why people are like, I want a natural approach. Like, I ended up on
on the Food Babes website when I was first sick, being like, what's going wrong with me? You know, like this is, maybe it's in the food. And I went like, I at one point, I think I'd gone vegan for about 2 years. I tried going all organic. I tried the paleo diet. I don't remember I didn't go keto, but I did go low carb at one point. Like I tried all the different diets because I was like, maybe it's, I was very overweight at the time too. I lost a buttload of weight. That was when I was running marathons. Like I don't want to say I fell for everything, but I fell for everything because, I was sick, same thing, sick and desperate. And I was, eventually medicine is like, at this point, my headache is really well managed. And it barely ever affects me. Once in a while, I'll have a bad headache night, but most of the time during the day, totally fine. But I just had a nerve that shot the bed. It wasn't the food at all. These things just happen. These types of headaches have been around since humans have had heads,
Right.
But yeah, it's more proof that nature doesn't make it good.
Exactly. And let me throw a couple of things at you here and see what's your feedback on this. I was sort of thinking about this as far as like, well, why would most people turn to alternative medicine in the first place? We have doctors, we have hospitals, we have nurses, we have this whole structure. And in the United States, certainly cost is a factor, but in other countries in the world, they turn to alternative medicine nonsense as well, and they have free healthcare, universal healthcare, et cetera. So
I've got a really good answer for you.
Well,
but,
yeah.
But I might be interrupting, so I apologize.
No, it's fine. Well, I had two ideas on this, and I wanted to throw them at you and then get your feedback on it. Either one, I think that they are either grossly misinformed about what medicine really is, or two, they are not misinformed, but they've had some bad experience, and so they feel like they have no other option. They go to the doctor. We've been talking about this in this episode already. Bad experiences with doctors who can't communicate, don't know what's going on, and let's face it, the state of medicine isn't what we would all like it to be. So all those things. What's your take on that?
Those are both accurate. There's another thing that happens too. Sometimes the medical option is just shitty, and they know exactly what it is. And it's devastating. There's a case that happened why does this always go back to Australia? This island full of criminals. I'm kidding. I love Australia, obviously. But there's this wonderful, by wonderful, I mean, it's like, this is a really tragic story, actually. This case, her name is Jessica Ainscough. I apologize. I've never heard the last name pronounced out loud, but it's spelled like Ainscough, Ainscough. If you want to look her up. She was diagnosed with a type of cancer that would have needed, in order to be treated at first, it's such a devastatingly, she would have needed such a devastating amputation, like starting at her shoulder. And I mean, I can understand why. She was 23 when either 22 or 23 when she was told, yep, we need to like just chop from the shoulder on off. And then we need to give you chemo and radiation. And then you might live. I can see why someone would be like, is there an option behind door number 2? Is there anything else? I would like to, the option is that I will maybe live if you chop off my shoulder. I can see why. Because surgery in and of itself is bad, but surgery that's going to do an irreversible fucked up thing to your body, and you don't know if it's going to work. Like, she was looking at the possibility of not living, even if that. So here's what she did. She ended up trying out, if you've heard of it, Gerson therapy. Are you familiar?
I am not.
So we're gonna talk some more enemas, because apparently this is how all alternative medicine works. Is that they've forgotten that you can take things in your mouth.
Wow.
So they're going up the butt. I'm not judging anyone's life. I'm just, the butt's a fun place to play for consenting adults, but I'm just saying, not always the best place for medicine to go. So Gerson therapy involves drinking 13 glasses of freshly juiced organic fruit and vegetable juices per day. I'm not sure why they settled on 13. Maybe it's lucky if you're in upside down land. And, fresh, I believe you get to eat some fruits and vegetables too. I could be misremembering that. And you also have to do, I don't remember if it's just, I know there's at least coffee enemas involved, but I don't remember if there are, I know some of the types of like nutty cancer treatments also involve wheatgrass enemas too. And wheatgrass, the story behind wheatgrass is so crazy. There was a woman in the earlier part of the 20th century who thought that the root to all health was chewing our food like cows. So we should eat grass like them. And that's kind of the root of the wheatgrass thing. Like it has a decent amount of vitamin E or A. I forget. It's been a while since there's an article somewhere on my site about it, but like the story behind wheatgrass is so silly. But yeah, now it's a cancer cure apparently. So anyways, eventually, now here's the really screwed up part about this story. Because obviously juice doesn't cure cancer, or at least it's, again, I have to put out this proviso because it's according to our current knowledge, it has never cured cancer. So Jessica goes on this protocol, claims she's been cured, and goes on speaking tours worldwide to tell people that she's been cured, and sells these detoxes. Now the mark has become the con, which is kind of horrifying because, she was a victim of this. And now I don't know if she ever sold this to somebody else who was trying to treat their cancer, but she surely, sold it to people who were trying to lose weight, feel healthier, prevent cancer. Like she sold this to people who bought it because she told them something that she might have believed was true. And eventually, we saw in pictures of her, she was trying to hide her arm. And eventually, she confessed that she had bleeding tumors on her arm. And she tried this is crazy. She tried like a last ditch round of like chemo and radiation, I believe, like within the last 6 months of her life, and passed away. When she passed away, there was a statement, obviously she passed away from the cancer, because that's a thing that happens when you don't treat your cancer. And there was a statement on the Gerson Therapy website that she had passed away because but she passed away when she lived her truth for the last several years. I'm like, lived her truth? That's a funny way of saying that she died from your therapy.
Right.
Sorry, she didn't die from anything they'd done. I allege, this is all alleged. Mm. Mm-hmm. And of course, if you watch like any of the cancer documentaries on Netflix, there are several of the, like, I think it's like A Beautiful Truth and The Truth About like all of those have like featured, I think her name is Charlotte Gerson. She's the daughter of the doctor who launched Gerson Therapy like 100 years ago, back when we didn't know shit about cancer. So these people are all trying to look to 100 years ago for cures. And I'm like, why are you looking for cures from 50 years before we figured out lobotomies were a bad idea?
Exactly. I mean, toilet paper was invented after the fact.
It's a perfect example.
Like, come on, guys.
Why?
Could we? I mean,
don't get technology from before we had clumping cat litter, okay?
Right. I mean, this is not. Well, it's not rocket science. I mean, like, it's definitely not.
Rocket science is much easier. That's just physics. Humans are fuck-up machines.
Well, that's the thing. A good friend of mine, a medical researcher, actually has made the point that that we don't have yet an Einstein of medicine like we've had an Einstein of physics. And in other words, a sort of unifying model and theory and all that sort of thing. And it's fine. It's not. It's
won't.
Well, I'm hoping that at some point we will, but the point is that there is a lot of development. There's a lot of learning still to do. And it's unfortunate that, we live in a time when it's not all figured out. We're not Star Trek. We don't have the little device you can stick on the forehead and, and the brain lesions are all gone and the seizures will not happen anymore.
One day.
Maybe. Maybe. So that leads me to this very hard question. You've done a lot of study on this. Now, you're a chemist. You've done, you're certainly a scientist. You've done scientific work. So, I'm not talking.
I've pipetted. I've done some pipetting in my day.
Yeah. So I'm not talking to somebody who has no clue about how this stuff works. And now you've gone, you've had your personal experiences and then gone on your crusade to, take down pseudoscience. But here's a kind of a hard question, which is, what are people supposed to do when they're faced with a medical situation or some situation, some body situation, and there's just isn't any real science on it.
It's well, first cuddle. Obviously, the first thing to do is snuggle your cat.
Clearly, yes.
Yeah,
Clearly.
that's as I like to call Lexi, Shill cat was coming by to visit. But it's it's. Wait, sorry, I got distracted. But yeah, if it's something that doesn't seem to have an answer, like there's the first like. I always say, number one, go to a second expert and get a referral around, because sometimes like. The most horrible thing about this is that there are going to be things that don't have an immediate answer and don't have or don't have an easy answer, or there are going to be things that you have to hunt around a lot to find an expert for, or there are going to be things that you get misdiagnosed for. The answer is never alternative medicine, because if it worked, sorry to steal from Tim Minchin, but since I'm going to attribute it to him, it's okay. If it worked, it will be called medicine. We would just be using it. And I mean, every so often you'll hear someone say, but real medicine doesn't use it because they can't make a profit off of it. I'm like, fuck you. Pfizer would find a way to extract those ingredients and put them into a pill if they could in a second. So anytime they're like, but yeah, Pfizer can't find a way to encapsulate turmeric. I'm like, want to bet? they would find a way to do. But the other thing is, look, I mean, I could get into a whole long rant on this, but they really haven't found any evidence that turmeric does much of anything anyway. It does make curry taste really good, though. Highly recommend for curry.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, okay, good. So on the tail of that, then, from your experience with this, because you've been dealing with a lot of feedback over the last couple of years to your work.
Yeah.
What's the lay person? How is just your regular Joe? Doesn't really know a whole lot about medicine, doesn't really know a whole lot about much of anything except what they watch on TV. And hopefully they have enough good sense to know that what's on TV ain't any kind of reflection of the real world. So
depends on the person.
Yeah, I mean, but mostly, you know what I mean? It's like you're not going to, Chicago ER and Chicago PD and Chicago Law and Order and all this crap is just a bunch of fantasy,
No, I have my master's is in forensics, and I ended up working as a chemist. I had a roommate after I had my master's already argue with me that the presentation of forensics on all those cop shows was accurate, because she's like, well, I know they have people from the field consult on those shows. I'm like, bitch, I'm consulting with your brain right now and you're wrong. Exactly. I was like, I'm in this room right now and I'm telling you that's not how science happens. And it's people want to believe what they've seen. So
right. Well, let's say that your person is, that my person here is smart enough to realize that that's not really how things go, but they don't know medicine. They don't know, a whole lot about science. They go to a doctor. The doctor says X, Y, Z. They go, well, I don't know if that really is right or not. Or, they start doing it, but it doesn't work or something like that. What sort of things, what sort of markers or indicators would tell a person that their doctor knows what he's doing or doesn't know what he's doing, and that's really time to go get a second, third, fourth opinion?
That's an excellent question, actually. Number one, blowing off your questions. If you have questions about something, they go, it's okay. It's going to work itself out. It's number two, I've been an overweight patient. I was like before, when I first got my headaches, I weighed 244 pounds and I'm 5'9". I'm in a healthy weight range. I finally broke back into the healthy BMI range for my height like this week, so I'm pretty proud of myself. But anyways, like there was a lot of weight to lose, and I had one doctor when my headaches first started tell me, if you just cut the caffeine and exercise, your headaches will go away. I'm like, well, that sounds scientific, asshole. So, if they're giving you answers that just, that I'm like, well, I don't think you read that off a test, doctor. You didn't test my caffeine levels or my exercise levels. You made an assumption about me by looking at me. So, if there are obvious signs that they are making assumptions about you, then get a second opinion. It can never hurt you to get a second opinion. But remember, ask for an opinion or ask for a referral to a doctor, not a naturopath or a chiropractor. If you've put in the work, if you've followed all your doctor's orders, and keep track of these things. Keep all chronic illnesses that hard to treat things that we're talking about. There's going to be different situations there. Keep a diary of how you're feeling. Keep a diary of progress with things. And if your doctor is not paying attention to these things and still trying to tell you, yeah, just stay the course, whatever the advice is, go somewhere else. If they're not, like, if you're saying, I think this is it, and there's very good reason for it, and if you're just asking for a very simple, non-invasive thing that can be done with a blood test or a urine test, and they're refusing, that's a good reason to go to another doctor, because most of the time these I've asked for very basic tests before. Like, a lot of times I've been on meds that need my liver levels checked, which is part of the reason why I don't drink. But like, they're, along with that, I'll ask, hey, can we check if this is affecting my X, Y, and Z? And my doctors have been very good about mainly humoring me on that. But it's also because, if you want to make sure that your entire health is in order, checking on things is perfectly fine to ask about. But, doctors who, like, I'm always very happy to have doctors who overlook look into things more instead of ignore concerns. So those are all really good things to look out for. And I've had doctors who have looked down to me. One point I told the doctor, this med's working pretty well. This one's making me so groggy. I'm sleeping for 11 hours a night and I'm still exhausted. She looked at me and starts, Ms. D'Entremont. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be a lecture I enjoy. Isn't are all the swears okay in this show, Chris?
Yeah, it's okay.
I might have after that happened. And I mean, this was horrible. Like, I'd been on Topamax for a bunch of years for my headaches, and she thought, like, it was a nutty situation, but she refused to raise the level of Topamax I was on, even though it seemed to be working. And she raised the level of the medication that was knocking me out. And I went up to the desk after this appointment and said, can you give me a new doctor? This one's a cunt. I might have gotten kicked out of that practice.
Yeah, they might have not enjoyed that. Yeah.
The doctor that I went back to my primary care, asked for a referral. See, that's when you get a referral. I'm just saying, there are times when, the doctor, she wasn't listening to me. She didn't, I got referred to her at first when I'd been in a car crash. And this is a nutty story. I'd been in a car accident 8 months after my headaches had started. They put me on Percocet because I'd been in a car crash. And I was like, my headache doesn't feel as bad. And I'd never asked for narcotics. Well, in 8 months of a chronic headache, that was because I'm like, all right, I have chronic pain now. I can't be on narcotics for this because that's going to screw up my life. But they put me on that. I'm like, And at the time, they had misdiagnosed the type of headaches I had. And the doctor at the ER was like, Percocet doesn't help that type of headaches. I'm going to send you to a neurologist. I'm like, okay. And I told the doctor this, and, that the Percocet had helped. And she's like, oh, so you're looking for drugs? I'm like, no, I'm looking for the right combination of, seizure and or because normally these types of headaches are treated with seizure or meds or tricyclic antidepressants. Those are the general modes of managing nerve headaches. But anything, she asked me, does drinking affect it? Because some types of these headaches, mainly cluster headaches, can be triggered by drinking. And I was like, no, sometimes drinking makes it feel less bad. And I'm like, here's the thing, most I ever drink in a night is 2 drinks. Or at that point in time, I've pretty much given up drinking entirely now. But me saying to her, she was looking for drug-seeking behavior from someone who was in pain, of course. And I don't blame her for that, but she had me pegged entirely wrong. Right. It's when she asked, what does drinking do to it? I'm like, it makes it feel less bad, but I think it's just that I don't feel anything. I feel less sensitive to everything because there's alcohol in my system. She's like, so does that make you drink more? I'm like, no, I drink maximum 2 a night. It's just not I'm not really a drinker. But just from that point on, nothing I said was believed. And that's an important thing, is being believed by your doctor. So if you have a doctor that's not listening to you, not communicating well with you, and I mean, it's hard to figure out how to get a doctor who listens to you. So yeah,
it's rough because doctors, scientists, people, they're human too. And, I'm probably going to, at some point, probably do a whole podcast just on this exact point. But the point is that when we're science advocates or science communicators, or we're promoting science over woo or pseudoscience, that doesn't mean that we think every doctor and scientist knows what they're talking about, or that people don't make mistakes, or that there are not vested interests or jealousy or bureaucracy or everything else that goes on in any other field. But we're talking about, at least there's a fundamental here in science.
Yes.
At least there's a basis for our faith in it, I guess you could say.
Yes.
Well, right?
We don't have faith. We have evidence.
Yeah, knowledge. Exactly. There's evidentiary reasons to think that there's
you busted out evidentiary. Oh, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like, at the end of the day, you can take whatever medication we're talking about, you can take the treatment, the test we're doing, and you can take it from, the original lab that it was tested in at, whatever pharmaceutical company, and you can bring the instructions on how they figured out this medication worked. You can take them to a lab anywhere on the planet and give it to any scientist who's capable of deciphering the words on it, because sometimes fancy science terms are, you need a couple of years of education before you know what they mean. But like, you can take it to any scientist who's been through the training to understand that, and they can replicate it and produce the same results. And that's the thing about science, is it doesn't change. It's going to be replicable, and that's what differentiates the stuff that gets to market, the stuff that's real medicine from the alternative medicine, because none of these alternative medicine people agree with each other. Half of them think plant-based diet saves you. Half of them think keto saves you. Half of them think you need one supplement for you. Half of them are like, supplements are bad. You need to get all of your nutrition from your diet. Like, they can't agree on anything because they don't have any tests or evidence to support them.
That's right. And and actually, that's probably a pretty good test for whether you're dealing with science or pseudoscience is the evidence, quote unquote, just a bunch of stories and testimonials.
Oh, yeah.
In other words, anecdotal evidence, which really amounts to pretty much no evidence, because, people are great and people come from honest places. And I'm not saying that everybody's a liar, but they don't know what necessarily cures things. They don't necessarily know what changed things.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like when my headaches were bad, I'm sure at some point, and like I don't want to deny that I have a past with alternative medicine. Like, I don't want to deny that I definitely fell for it on some level. I was sure that my head felt better on, like, when I was a strict vegan, like I'm sure that was a thing that happened, but at the same time, like, maybe it was just, that could have been the placebo effect happening, or I'm not sure if that's placebo or nocebo, but, like, I was looking for something to be happening because I'd seen, I'd heard other anecdotal evidence. And I wonder if I ever gave other people, my anecdotes of, yes, this diet helped me and it made me healthier to help take care of my headaches. Like, it's that, that'd be a crazy strong anecdote if it were true. But man, medicine's helping way more. I would have loved to have been able to just get off all the meds. Way more cost effective to just be able to, eat some food and not have to go to the pharmacy every month. But it's not a thing that happens. So but I mean, there are people in all of these documentaries, though, that talk about all the, the different diets, the different medicines they've been on. They all have a ton of anecdotes, but most of them at the end of the day don't pan out. And they don't have, like, if they had evidence, they wouldn't be making documentaries. They'd be publishing in the British Medical Journal.
Very good point. Actually, I really like that point, because I was looking through my Netflix directory the other night, and I was like,
Never seen one just called penicillin. It works. Yeah. Vaccines. Thank them for not having smallpox. Polio. You're walking. You're welcome.
Exactly. Another point I'd like to make here, and I'd like to get your feedback on this. Knowing what we know, I mean, me about cults particularly, right? You about, medicine and science and stuff. Wouldn't it be a lot easier if we really wanted to just go make some money?
Let's start a cult with alternative medicine, and just like, if one day I lose all my morals, and I mean all of them. I'm just kidding. I don't have morals already. But like, if one day I lose my sense of ethics, I don't have one. If one day I lose it. I guess I just have to lose it. I know how all these tricks work. Like, it's whenever I hear someone calling me a shill or paid off or whatever, I'm just like, if I were a shill, if I had that little morality, I'd be selling the same shit that they do. Cause I'm like, look, they're making money with bullshit. I would be taking advantage of this obvious ability to make money off of an unproven product. So I'm just saying, this is whenever I get the accusation that I'm paid off by Big Pharma, I'm like, no. I do have, just for full disclosure, I do have a contract with Splenda as a consultant for them, and that's, it's mainly because I like debunking myths about artificial sweeteners, and that's something I've been doing before I worked with them, and that has brought some shill accusations on me. But I guarantee you that didn't affect my bottom line anywhere near as much as all the bullshit that Gwyneth Paltrow sells, and that's not anything that I've pulled out of my ass. She's written her financials, her financials have been blasted in the New York Times and New York Magazine. I promise you, you can look around my house a little bit. This is not the Gwyneth Paltrow mansion in Beverly Hills. This is a 2-bedroom house in Vallejo, California. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
So,
well, I wanted to comment on that. That's actually, what's funny is you mentioned Big Pharma. That's actually where our worlds collide in terms of the criticism, because Scientology, for example, is rabidly antipsychotic or psychiatric, right? Rabidly. And they have documentaries. They have a whole wing of the church called the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, which does nothing 24/7 but fight psychiatry.
Oh, wait, do they have do they have videos on this? I have to see them.
Oh yeah, if psychiatry and industry of death, psychiatry madmen, are we drugging, the children drugging thing? Oh, they got like 5 or 6 of these things.
Oh, I have to watch these.
Yeah,
you see the expression.
Yeah, go to the CCHR website, Citizens Commission for Human Rights. You will see what I'm talking about.
You have no idea how excited I am.
Oh yeah, it's exciting stuff. So they claim that people like us are also shills for Big Pharma.
Where's the paycheck?
Right? That's what I'm waiting for my check from Big Pharma.
I have friends who have worked in pharmaceutical sales before. They make more money than one of them should give me a cough medication. But all my friends who have worked in pharmaceutical sales make more money than I am at the moment. I'm just saying. If I were on the dole of a pharmaceutical company, I'd be doing a little financially better than I am right now.
It really is a kind, in many, many ways, what we do is not thankless job. I get a lot of thanks from a lot of people, but compared to, the monetary financial returns of people who lack a moral compass, it can be a little disheartening sometimes. Yeah. Okay, well, Yvette, this has actually been wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time to do all this.
Fun. We should do one and talk about the 12 tribes.
Oh, yes, we should.
Because as you and I chatted about before, and I think you said you'd done a podcast on this before. I don't remember.
I have not broached 12 tribes.
Oh, I was about to say, now you can see how good I am at making the veins in my neck pop out. But just for your viewers heads up, I have friends that are in a cult called the 12 Tribes, and I also have friends who have escaped. And I'm guessing that my friends that are in the cult aren't gonna, they're not gonna be checking this out anytime soon. But yeah, the stories I've heard from the people who have escaped, holy shit! Oh my God, there's a lot. So there's some stuff to unpack. Yeah,
I would very much be interested in also talking to your friends about that too.
Oh, I have some people who I don't know if I'll
if they'd be willing to.
There's now a 12 Tribes podcast, and I think they're working more on exposing the child abuse than anything else. But one of my friends also told me that there is the people who founded the church cult are getting really old, and so whenever a founder of a church gets old, shit gets bad. Not just beating children bad, but fucking up lives forever, way worse than we were before bad. And I remember one time, because I go to visit because I had a really good friend from high school who joined, and I'd lost track of her for like a decade. And when I, finally found her in this cult, I was so happy, and I would go for full weekends to visit. And like, you could tell that like, over time of me going to visit more and more, like I could tell they got more comfortable with just, hitting the kids in front of me. And I'm like, this is creepy.
Yep.
This is
Big
not
time.
okay. Like, yeah, it was very weird. And I found out, after, cause I moved across the country. But like, I found out after I stopped going there from friends who had left that, the abuse, like one of my friends said to me fairly recently, yeah, I get hit about 100 times a day, but it wasn't child abuse. I'm like, did you read what you just said? You were hit 100 times a day. That is child abuse. And he was like, oh my God, I never even thought about it that way. I'm like, that's the thing, is they trained you not to think about it that way. Like it's, right. And I mean, there's a whole other discussion on spanking. I know that people are like, I'm anti-spanking. I'm not going to get into anyways, but like someone can make the argument that, that if you spank a child for something really, really, really severe, maybe that's not child abuse. And I'm not going to get into that, but spanking a child 100 times a day for anything that you don't perceive as 100% obedient and submissive, that is abusive. There is no argument otherwise. I'm not hearing it. Like I think there is wherever the line is between one spank for something really, really, really severe and 100 or more thwacks a day for anything. I'm not sure where the gradient is, but there's a line. And I draw the line at no spanking. Other people aren't going to, but I'm horrified at the amount of things that they do to the children there, because they need to make 144,000 godly, righteous, perfect children at their 12,000 each at their 12 settlements to make the end times come. That's their goal.
Man. Well,
that's another podcast.
It is. It definitely is, and what I'm interested in doing. But on this note, we'll wrap up for today with this. I hope that folks have gotten the point here that there's a lot of critical thinking to do in this whole field, and it's not particularly my place to tell you what to think or something. Well, all I'm trying to present here with Yvette is, look, be aware, be critical. Keep your eyes open. And it is okay. Oh yeah, well, actually, there was one last thing I wanted to get a comment on.
Oh.
It is okay, right, to ask your doctor questions and actually expect them to answer them.
Yes. Please do, ask what the medication you're being prescribed does. Ask what your options are. Ask, if you want to ask if there are natural options for something, ask if those natural options are proven. I think that's, because there are some people who they're like, I don't want a chemical in my system. Your system's made of chemicals. Ask what the evidence is behind something, or ask if there's a resource they can refer you to. By the way, I tend to refer people to, I believe it's Cochrane, Cochrane, just so nobody goes to something we had that discussion in Denver.
Yes, we did.
Because I know that Cochrane can sound like something else, which is, delightful. But that's my suggestion. Ask your doctor to point you towards resources for support, for answers, and and for follow-up appointments. If they can't provide you with the support that you need, there's another doctor out there who can. And that's, chronic illnesses, things that are hard to figure out. Those are going to be difficult for even good doctors sometimes. So hunt for a new doctor if you are having trouble managing something that's causing you pain, distress, or otherwise inconveniencing your life through your health.
Yeah, exactly. And don't forget, when you go to a doctor, you're the customer. You're the one paying for this service. So it's okay to ask a lot of questions and get yourself informed of what's going on.
And I'm not saying to ask for a certain drug, obviously, because that's, like the doctor is the one who's supposed to be doing the doctoring and the prescribing. But,
that's right.
Ask questions about, your treatment, like give very detailed explanations about about what's going on with you, and make sure you have an open relationship talking about your standard of care. I think those are very important points to be made. Like, again, I'm not a doctor, but but I'm a sick person who's chronically ill, and I want to make sure that people have a good working relationship with their doctor if they are chronically ill.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Great. All right. Well, thank you very much. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks out there, any questions, comments, feedback, good, bad, or sideways, leave it in the comment section here on YouTube or at sensiblyspeaking.com. Bye-bye, Yvette.